They were pinned down, coordinates locked, air support inbound. The SEAL team braced for a 5-minute wait. Instead, the sound came instantly. A 10 Warthog, 1 pass, no comms, no second approach. Every target gone. Then silence except for the retreating hum of a jet already clearing the horizon. She never said a word, just flew it clean. If you believe some legends never wait for permission, type, she cleared the zone. A SEAL Special Operations unit operating deep in hostile territory made their final desperate call for immediate air support through encrypted emergency channels. They were completely out of ammunition, surrounded on 3 sides by overwhelming enemy forces and documenting casualty reports that increased by the minute. Command Headquarters approved the close air support strike estimated time of arrival 5 minutes through normal tactical response procedures. That's an eternity when you're bleeding out. One SEAL operator later recounted with grim understanding. As the surrounded team dug into defensive positions and prepared for prolonged hostile contact, something unexpected cut through the distant air. Not the familiar sound of a reconnaissance drone. Not the distinctive rotor signature of a rescue helicopter. A thunderous sound that only Vita-feed operators with extensive combat experience recognize, the unmistakable growl of a Warthog's Gu-8 cannon system spooling up to operational firing speed. But it wasn't their officially assigned close air support pilot. It wasn't even transmitting the correct tactical call sign for authorized aircraft in their operational area. No radio announcement, no formation coordination. Just one lone A-10 Thunderbolt peering suddenly from cloud cover, diving straight into attack position with perfect tactical approach. One single attack run executed with surgical precision. When the thick dust clouds settled across the battlefield, absolutely nothing hostile remained standing in their operational area. The impossible had occurred. Complete enemy elimination through a single close air support pass that exceeded normal tactical capabilities. The SEAL team emerged from cover to discover that their desperate situation had been resolved through intervention that shouldn't have been possible. Someone had appeared without authorization, executed perfect close air support, and eliminated every threat in their immediate area. But the aircraft had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind only evidence of extraordinary precision under combat conditions. The timing had been too perfect for coincidental arrival. Someone had been monitoring their emergency communications and had chosen to respond immediately rather than waiting for official authorization. Intervention that saved lives through methods that operated outside normal military command structures. Someone whose capabilities exceeded official close air support protocols and whose authority transcended normal authorization procedures. The SEAL team had been rescued by someone whose presence in their operational area couldn't be explained through standard military procedures. Aircraft that shouldn't have existed, providing support that officially couldn't be acknowledged, but which had prevented the loss of an entire special operations unit through precision intervention that exceeded anything available through normal channels. Their emergency had triggered response from sources that operated beyond normal military oversight. Someone whose commitment to protecting ground forces transcended bureaucratic limitations or political considerations. The rescue had been accomplished through capabilities that few people knew existed, but which remained available when desperately needed. Someone who monitored special operations activities and provided protection that couldn't be officially requested or acknowledged. The intervention had demonstrated that some military capabilities operated according to principles that transcended normal command authority. Protection that was available to personnel who faced situations beyond the scope of conventional military support. Their survival proved that some legends remained active despite official retirement or institutional constraints. That commitment to protecting fellow service members continued regardless of official statuses or bureaucratic approval. The SEAL team had experienced something that few military personnel ever encountered: rescue by someone whose existence couldn't be verified, but whose capabilities exceeded anything available through normal channels. Evidence that some warriors continued serving through methods that remained invisible to official recognition, but which provided essential protection when conventional support systems failed. Their desperate situation had been resolved by someone who didn't wait for permission to save lives that hung in the balance. The A-10 Warthog made no secondary attack pass for damage assessment. It never even adjusted course or turned around for confirmation. Who the hell was that pilot? One bewildered SEAL operator transmitted through tactical communications. Base Command Center responded with obvious confusion. Negative on identification. Authorized strike package hasn't reached your operational area yet. Then what aircraft did we just witness providing close air support? The SEAL team stood among the smoking battlefield debris, completely amazed as absolute silence settled over their previously contested operational zone. A surveillance camera drone managed to capture the aircraft's tail identification number, but the registration wasn't listed under any active pilot in their current operational database. The recorded frame showed a single distinctive emblem painted on the nose section of the A-10, a Black Hawk feather positioned inside a white circle. I've definitely seen that marking before, the SEAL team leader whispered with growing recognition. The emblem belonged to a pilot officially removed from all military records 8 years ago after an unauthorized close-air support strike that successfully saved an entire Special Operations detachment but severely embarrassed top military brass. Her name had been systematically wiped from official documentation. But stories of her absolutely perfect attack runs never disappeared from field operational memory. Veteran combat personnel continued sharing accounts of impossible close air support that had saved lives when official channels failed. Someone whose capabilities exceeded normal pilot training and whose commitment to protecting ground forces transcended institutional authority. Her unauthorized intervention had prevented the loss of an entire unit through precision close air support that couldn't be officially acknowledged, but which had established her legendary status among Special Operations personnel who understood the value of protection that operated outside normal command structures. The emblem served as her signature evidence that she remained active despite official removal from military service. Someone who continued monitoring Special Operations activities and providing protection when conventional support systems couldn't respond quickly enough. Her aircraft had appeared without advance notice, executed perfect close air support, and vanished before official responses could arrive. Timing that suggested she had been tracking their mission and had positioned herself to provide immediate assistance when their situation became desperate. Intervention that saved lives through methods that exceeded normal military response capabilities. The SEAL team had been rescued by someone whose existence couldn't be officially acknowledged, but whose capabilities remained available when desperately needed. Her strike had been executed with precision that exceeded anything available through conventional close-air support protocols. Single-pass elimination of all hostile threats through techniques that few pilots could accomplish under optimal conditions, but which she had achieved under combat stress using methods that weren't taught through normal military training programs. Her capabilities suggested experience that transcended conventional pilot education and training. Someone whose skills had been developed through operational requirements that exceeded normal military missions. The rescue demonstrated that some military personnel continued serving regardless of official status or institutional recognition. Protection that was provided according to personal principles rather than bureaucratic authorization. Her intervention had proven that commitment to protecting fellow service members transcended organizational boundaries, that some capabilities remained available outside official channels, but continued serving the same protective purposes. The SEAL team had experienced rescue by someone whose legend exceeded her official existence, but whose effectiveness remained as reliable as her commitment to preventing the loss of military personnel who faced situations beyond conventional support capabilities. Her strike had been both rescue and reminder that some protection operated according to principles that transcended normal military limitations. Evidence that dedication to saving lives continued regardless of institutional constraints or political considerations. Back at the forward operating base, surveillance footage was discreetly passed from operator to operator, but never discussed through official communication channels or documented in formal mission reports. An experienced aircraft maintenance technician confirmed identification through exhaust pattern analysis. That aircraft wasn't from our current operational inventory today, but the signature definitely belonged to her. No military personnel dared speak her actual name through official channels. She had flown classified missions, unlisted combat sorties, and precision close air support runs during politically sensitive conflicts that couldn't be officially acknowledged. She operated without conventional targeting software or electronic assistance, relying exclusively on natural instincts and direct visual sighting for target identification and engagement. 8 years earlier, after a bureaucratic approval process failure had cost multiple lives in the field, she launched unauthorized close air support and successfully saved every last special operations personnel on the ground. For that life-saving but unauthorized intervention, she was forced to disappear completely from official military service. Her final personnel file entry read, "Operator function outside established command authority. Mission, result, objective accomplished." Her A-10 Warthog aircraft was officially decommissioned from active service, or so military leadership publicly claimed. And yet there she was, today providing impossible close air support when it was desperately needed. One perfect attack run, no tactical errors, no official recognition or medals. Her legend lived in the stories shared among combat veterans who had witnessed or benefited from her intervention. Tales of close air support that appeared when conventional systems failed and lives hung in the balance. Someone whose capabilities exceeded normal pilot training and whose commitment to protecting ground forces transcended institutional limitations. Her unauthorized operations had established her as a guardian figure among special operations personnel, someone who monitored their activities and provided protection that couldn't be officially requested or acknowledged. Her aircraft modifications included equipment that allowed her to intercept emergency communications and respond immediately to life-threatening situations. Capabilities that enabled her to provide close air support faster than official military response procedures could authorize. She had become an unofficial insurance policy for special operations units that faced situations beyond conventional support capabilities. Protection that was available when bureaucratic procedures threatened to cost lives that could be saved through immediate intervention. Her commitment to saving military personnel transcended official authority and continued regardless of institutional constraints. Service that was motivated by personal dedication rather than career advancement or official recognition. The precision of her combat interventions suggested ongoing training and practice that maintained her capabilities at peak operational levels. Someone who remained combat-ready despite official retirement and continued developing skills that exceeded normal military pilot training. Her aircraft maintenance and operational costs were funded through sources that couldn't be traced through official military budget documentation. Support systems that allowed her to maintain independent operational capability without institutional oversight or authorization. Her interventions represented the highest levels of military effectiveness achieved through methods that operated completely outside normal command structures, but which remained committed to protecting the same values and personnel that official military forces defended. Her story had become legendary among combat veterans who understood that some protection operated beyond institutional boundaries. Evidence that dedication to preserving life continued regardless of official recognition or career considerations. The SEAL Team Rescue had been another chapter in a legend that grew with each life saved through intervention that couldn't be officially acknowledged, but which proved that some military personnel continued serving according to principles that transcended organizational limitations. Her legacy lived in the lives she had saved in the protection she provided to personnel who faced impossible situations. When SEAL Command leadership convened their post-mission briefing later that week, they made no mention of the unauthorized close air support in their official after-action report. But on a whiteboard in the Special Operations Ready Room, someone quietly wrote in permanent marker, "She flies first asked never." Experienced pilots throughout the facility started leaving an extra flight helmet near the aircraft launch hangar, just in case she returned and required immediate equipment access. Base engineers discreetly reran system access logs and added a new operational code into the flight tracking systems. Echo run if you see it, authorization granted. She doesn't request clearance through normal channels. doesn't wait for bureaucratic authorization or command approval. She only appears when ground personnel desperately need immediate close air support that conventional systems can't provide quickly enough. And when she departs the operational area, all that remains is silent settling dust in a battlefield that will remember her intervention better than any official medal or commendation could recognize. Her legend spread through special operations communities worldwide as an example of service that transcended institutional boundaries. Stories shared among combat veterans about protection that appeared when conventional support systems failed. Someone whose capabilities remained available despite official retirement, and whose commitment to saving lives continued regardless of bureaucratic constraints. Military training programs began incorporating lessons about recognizing unofficial support that might appear during emergency situations. Understanding that some assistants operated outside normal command authority, but remained dedicated to protecting military personnel. Her influence on special operations culture emphasized the importance of maintaining situational awareness for resources that couldn't be officially acknowledged. Recognition that effective military operations sometimes required flexibility in accepting support from sources that transcended normal authorization procedures. Her story became an unofficial standard for dedication that prioritized mission success in personnel protection over career advancement or institutional recognition. Evidence that true military service continued regardless of official status or bureaucratic approval. Flight training mice would reference her interventions as examples of tactical excellence achieved through capabilities that exceeded normal pilot education. Students learned about close air support precision that represented the theoretical limits of human pilot performance. But her identity remained as classified as the missions she continued to fly. The ultimate example of military service that operated according to personal principles rather than institutional requirements. Years later, when military historians attempted to document significant close air support operations, they would encounter systematic gaps in official records. Missions that clearly occurred but left no traceable documentation in accessible military archives. Operations whose results suggested capabilities that officially didn't exist, but which had prevented casualties that would have occurred without intervention. Her influence on special operations outcomes was profound but completely invisible to academic research or public recognition. But combat veterans understood that certain improvements in mission success rates and personnel survival had resulted from protection that transcended official military capabilities. That some close air support had been provided by individuals whose expertise remained classified for reasons that exceeded normal military considerations. Her legacy lived in the lives that continued because someone had possessed capabilities that officially didn't exist but remained available when desperately needed. Proof that the most important military service sometimes happened in complete anonymity. That true dedication to protecting fellow service members transcended institutional boundaries and political limitations. The SEAL Team Rescue had demonstrated that some capabilities existed beyond official military channels, but remained committed to protecting the same values that conventional forces defended. If you believe some warriors serve best without applause, subscribe to the Ordinary Heroes.